Honestly, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. God. Oh, God. It just goes down. Oh, my God. It's not so bad. It's not so bad. Oh, man. It just keeps going. I feel it. I feel that. I feel that. And I got banned from RuneScape? What the? I can't express to you how happy I was to see that we were starting in P2 as car number 2, so we should have the pace to remain somewhere near the front. Car 15 and car 11 right behind us. This is 3 laps of the Nürburgring Nordschleife combined. I'm not going to try and say it. There's more to it. Anyways, it's basically part of the Nürburgring GP and then the Nordschleife. Heading into the first turn, car 11 hits us and kind of sends us deep. We end up recollecting that, and he gives us tons of space going around the next corner. He actually apologized in the quick chat for that. So it did separate us a bit from the car ahead in P1, but we are still in P2, which is awesome, keeping that position. Going into the next corner, 15 sends it up the inside. 3 just doesn't break at all. 15 runs into 11, spinning him out. So that kind of puts him off of our tail, and that whole little situation would kind of open up the gap behind us to an even bigger gap. Now, I'm not super comfortable on the GP, and we're kind of losing to this guy already. I mean, we're probably maybe a full second, about a full second, 1.2 seconds maybe behind him. Heading onto the Nordschleife for the first time, and there are 2 people sliding out behind us. That was car number 15 once again being involved as... I mean, really, 15 didn't do anything here. 14 sends it up, super aggressive on the inside, kills this guy. However, 15 does retaliate with a brake check, and he brake checks car number 4. That ends up collecting this poor car number 9, who is going to really pay the price for both of those guys by vanishing completely off of the track. Meanwhile, the gap behind us has opened up to, I don't know, probably 3 seconds, roughly 2.5 seconds. The gap ahead hasn't really changed much. I'm pretty comfortable on the first part of the Nordschleife. This is probably the only part of the Nordschleife that I'm really comfortable on, or this entire track combo for that matter. And by the looks of this first lap, we may even be more comfortable than he is on the beginning of the Nordschleife, because we pull up right behind him. That could just be maybe him settling into the tires, who knows, but that definitely gave me hope that, you know, I felt faster than him, at least on some part of the track, which I haven't really felt at all this week. So that kind of reinstilled the fact that, you know, maybe I could fight this guy. Although as we come around to the end of the lap, and really, like, as we approach YouTube corner there and through YouTube corner, that is where my practice really fails me, as I didn't get the chance to practice this part of the track all that much. There's been a lot of accidents in the first half of the track, so all of the practice is basically from actual focused practice and not from races, which should give you enough of a pace, but I don't know, guys. I'm just not great at the second half of this track. As you can see, he is absolutely dusting us. Once we get past the jump and into this flat out section, he's pulling quite the gap. We have gotten better at this section though, so we're able to kind of keep him within our sights. But coming onto the Dottinger, I mean, it's barely in our sights. He's probably pulled about a 2-second gap at this point. We are going to slightly be soaking up slipstream as you kind of soak it up from like almost 2 seconds back. The cars behind, they're nowhere to be seen, and coming around to start lap 2, the gap ahead hasn't really changed. Onto the GP circuit, I've gotten better here than I was at the beginning of the week, as you tend to do through the week. Turning in a lot later there and keeping the minimum speed as high as we can, really pushing out wide as early as you can here. That wasn't our best run through there, but it also wasn't bad. Into the chicane, I'm not sure. I think it was just the difference between me and this guy, because I don't feel very fast through there, but it was definitely helping me this entire race. That chicane, I was gaining time onto him, and that was time I desperately needed, as coming onto the Nordschleife, I mean, we're less than a second, or about a second behind him now. Car number 8, I'd say 3 or 4 seconds behind us, possibly more than that. And then the cars behind him are, I mean, really none of our concern. Our only concern at this point is the car ahead, as we are kind of in a little group of our own. Coming into, I think this is Foxhole? Hills? Shoot, I'm not sure what the name of this is, but I felt really comfortable through there, and you can see just how much time I gained throughout the first bit of the Nordschleife. As coming onto the second half of the track, we are in a pretty good spot, really focusing on sending it here. This is my weakest point of the track from here until the end of the track, so I just want to basically brake less and throttle more, as that's kind of what tends to give you an advantage speed-wise. And already he's pulling a slight gap to me, very slight, but it is still a gap. Through YouTube, I do very well to stay with him there. However, coming out of YouTube, and I understeer massively on this uphill left-hander, very tricky corner, one that I used to have a lot of trouble on just getting through it at all, but now I tend to understeer. And out of that corner, you can see how much speed he has picked up over me. I'm also slightly overslowing onto the jump. As we come on through the Dottinger for the second time, about to start the next lap, and I do gain a decent amount of time into or onto the end of the Dottinger, onto the GP circuit, and that would be somewhere that hopefully I could use to my advantage. I did take note of it as I realized that I closed up the gap pretty significantly in that turn alone. Onto the GP now, braking just after the 150, down to second gear, using first for rotation, pretty much purely for, well, not purely for rotation, I guess I am using it for the throttle as well, but I shift up to second before making turn 2, as it's very easy to spin if you are in first gear through there. It's definitely possible to do, but I find gear 2 just to be more beneficial for myself. He goes a bit deep into turn, I think that's turn 3 or turn 4, and we are going to slowly start to close up the gap, as for no reason whatsoever, we miraculously put together a very solid run through the GP circuit. We tend to slightly miss these apexes or overslow, but on this occasion I was feeling pretty confident about how our run was going into the chicane, and this is basically going to close out the GP circuit. Once again, I think he's overslowing there, at least just compared to me. The faster guys are much faster, so I mean, I'm probably overslowing every corner compared to them. They're running 744s, 745s. The pros and the faster guys they're running anywhere between 744s to 746s, basically. And you can see I'm running a 749.5, so that's 5 seconds off of them. I'm not racing the pros right now, though. I am racing, I think this guy's name is Danilo. He's a very fast driver, a driver I've driven with a lot, and I think that he is also somebody who's not super comfortable on this track, because on some of the other courses, he tends to dust me slightly. But on this occasion, I was actually hanging with him, and I mean, this was the last lap, so if I could keep a gap similar to this, then by the end of the Dottinger, we should be able to get, or onto the Dottinger, we should be able to get a move done and just basically pass him with slipstream, which was my goal. So really focusing on just having a clean lap. We just needed one clean lap here to make it count for us and possibly get a win on the Nordschleife, which has taken, I mean, it's probably taken 600, 700 IR from us this week. We started at 42, and now we're at 36 something. So it's been a lot. We've lost a lot into what has become my favorite corner of the track, closing up the gap a lot more than I expected to, and we are now in a super solid position, and we need to stay as close as we can to him, mainly because I know he's going to end up pulling away slightly at the end of the track, so I want to basically be on his bumper entering the end of the track, and then hopefully the separation that he gets throughout those last few turns before the Dottinger won't be enough to propel him any further than maybe 5/10ths ahead of us, which is just about prime time for getting a move done on the Dottinger. Down to second gear for the very slow left-hander at the bottom of that hill. You gotta find the power on the way out as early as you can, and we managed to do that, keeping the gap within, I don't know, maybe 2-3 tenths, braking just before the end of that curb, just for safety. You can realistically brake at the end of it and be fine. Down to third gear here, you want to get on the throttle as early as you can. You have to be brave. It's very, very easy to slide out there. As we approach the carousel, I have a really good run on him. I actually back off there to let him know that, you know, I'm not going to send a move up here. I want to stay behind him, but I end up actually over braking here, as when I lifted, I lost speed that I usually have, so I broke normally while going slower, which puts me pretty far off of him. Fortunately, he's going to run into the dirt heading towards the right-hander that leads to the carousel, and as he collects that, he loses a bit of time to me, so that helps me out a little bit, which I desperately needed. I really wish that I hadn't overslowed there, though. Coming into the carousel, very important that we nail this. just trying not to pop out of here, and we are going to get the power down at just the perfect time, firing ourselves out of there, probably about 6 to 7 tenths behind him. However, we are entering the part of the track where I know he has an advantage on me, so I really have to send it if I want to stay on his tail, and I really just need to stay about 5 to 6 tenths by the time we enter the Dottinger, and I should be okay to put a move on him down the straight. Riding that little camber right there up into 4th gear, all over that curb, turning right early here and kind of bleeding off the throttle, then slowly getting on the brake, and you want to hug both of these curbs. You can really cut a lot of this one. This is where my pace really falls off though. So down to 3rd, and I'm trying to get on the throttle early, but I'm still losing time to him. Once again here, this is really overslowing. I think it's not my throttle, it's my brake there. Down to 3rd, gonna get as close as we can here without touching too much of that curb. Heading up into YouTube, very light braking, and it's really important to get a slightly late apex here. It's a weird apex. There is grip still. Braking just kind of in that gap on the graffiti on the ground, not understeering this time, not as much as I did on the last lap at least. He's still pulling some time on me, but there is still time left in the lap for me to make it up through the jump. I want to brake as little as possible down to 4th, get on the throttle early, and we also turn in earlier on this occasion as soon as we land from the jump, which is going to keep us closer, and I believe we're actually gaining on him through this sector. So as we probably entered this sector about 8 tenths behind him, and I'd say by the end of it, it's looking like we're closer to 7. Coming up to the 2nd carousel, it's very important to carry as much speed as you possibly can here, pushing in 5th, braking down to 3rd gear, very light trail braking around this, it's kind of off-cambered corner, heading into the 2nd carousel, braking at the end of the graffiti, and riding it as much as we can while still maintaining throttle. It looks like he threw himself out pretty hard there, and we are just about in a perfect spot. However, we make a huge mistake here of not shifting down to 4th. I don't know why I did that. My brain just totally skipped over it, missing out on crucial torque that you need to kind of get you up that hill. The power band it's not all there in 5th gear, and I mean you can see ahead. Yeah, he kind of dusted me down there. He gained probably about 3 tenths through that corner. However, the race isn't over. We have 1 turn left, and I'm just not gonna slow down, and barely managed to not hit him. I would be lying if I did that hoping that he would make a mistake, but he did not. So yeah, we come across the line in a really satisfying 2nd place. He's flashing us across the line. Must have been a good race. Fun race for him as well, I'm sure. And that'll be the end of this one. Hopping into the results. Finally, we got P2. That's the best so far. We actually have had a couple of 3rd places, but P2 is a new best for us this week. Gaining 56 I rating, which is still terribly down there. Our safety rating is pretty high as well. And yeah, if you want to see anything else, feel free to pause it here. Into the next race, and oh man, this one is insane. So we're starting in P14, and on the inside, which is benefit for turn 1 at least. It also gives you the outside for turn 2, which I really like. It's a lot easier to make it around the outside without somebody running into the back of you. Getting right up behind Benzo Racing here as everybody's kind of overslowing as you do. 19 though, refusing to overslow. Matter of fact, probably underslowing, driving into car number 13, and he's going to make his way through the middle of turn 2, and we are on his outside coming into turn 3, and a lot's gonna go down. This guy cuts us off majorly, runs into him, we slow down, and honestly, I think we were still going a little bit too fast, but regardless, 19 is still going to send it into the back of us, really carrying a lot of speed, punt us into all of those guys. So we are there's a lot going on there. 19 will then proceed to spin himself right out of the exit of that corner. We managed to collect ourselves back up and get back on track, joining behind, he almost runs into us here, kind of scary, joining the track behind the yellow Manthe Porsche, probably, 3-4 seconds up the road, onto the Nordschleife, and this guy is rejoining the track. Something must have happened to him. I'm not quite sure. Honestly, I have no idea what position we are in at this point either. If I had to take a guess, I would say somewhere around P18-ish or P17-ish. Following the blue and green car, and we're going to follow this guy for a little bit. I'm not sure if he had damage or what it was, but we pretty quickly find ourselves getting onto his tail, and we stayed on his tail for a good bit of the race, kind of just riding behind him and letting him set the pace, as honestly, I wasn't in a huge rush, especially on lap 1, and especially after I'd already spun once. I just kind of wanted to have a lap to relax slightly, let my tires cool down a little bit, and find my own pace. coming onto this straight, and I think he just takes a lot of the outside. He kind of gets one tire into the dirt, and he actually slows down and gives us that position. I'm sure he didn't want to feel the pressure. There is a decent gap behind him as well, and looking forward, there is the Manthe Porsche, and then car number 5, who started next to us on the grid, but I'm not sure if he had damage or what it was, but he was definitely holding up this Manthe Porsche, and on top of that, he was holding us up because we caught them pretty quickly. That was the first carousel on the first lap, and we were pretty firmly behind them. A few cars ahead, Joey is behind Dynaco McQueen, who takes way too much of that curb, ends up collecting Joey, just barely making contact with their quarter panels. His ass is getting absolutely decimated by the barrier there, so he's probably got some rear diffuser damage from that. And we are continuing to chase down the Manthe Porsche. We actually come through that same sector not too long after, so pick up a position from the Dynaco Porsche, Dynaco McQueen, and continue right along our merry way. This is about that sector of the track that I know you're probably tired of hearing me say it, but this sector that I'm not super great at. Manthe Porsche gets backed up by the number 5 Porsche, and as we head in towards YouTube corner, or the penultimate corner before YouTube, I don't know, corner before YouTube corner, we end up following the Manthe car around the outside of car number 5 as well, who at this point, yeah, I'm pretty sure he had damage, because I mean, you typically don't let people around right there. 19 is going to lunge up the inside from downtown onto the Dynaco McQueen Porsche, giving him his second spin of the race, and I don't think it's his last either. So he is now chasing us down, and I mean, honestly, if you see anybody in a F1 livery, it's time to run or let them through, because they're aggressive. And that guy in particular, I've actually raced with him quite a few times, and he's a pretty aggressive driver. Joey up ahead, Manthe behind him, and me behind Manthe, and that was kind of the story of the race at this point. Coming through the jump, overslowing from myself, but even still, I felt like I was catching this guy, so I knew that once I settled into my pace, hopefully before the end of this lap or early on in the next lap, I could get a move done onto this guy. I mean, really, you want it to happen on the Dottinger, don't you? And as we approach the Dottinger, I'm in a pretty good spot to get the move done. I definitely slowed down a little bit more than I needed to coming onto the Dottinger, and that's going to give him a crucial 1 or 2 tenths that may have saved his life. Behind us, car number 5 has kind of been holding back this entire group. 19 is in the middle of this group, and he is going to find himself in a prime position to not only get one position, but move up the inside of number 5 and number 15, looking for 2 positions down the Dottinger. So great moves by him. I am following Manthe through, and by the time we get to the end of the Dottinger, I don't have the pace, but he ends up kind of, I mean, this was very confusing to me. I had to slow down so much not to hit him there. He had the inside, and he was about a car length ahead, so I was expecting him to just drive normally, but he brakes really early, and here's a better gauge of it. See how far we were at the beginning of that braking zone, and now into the end of it, 19 is going to be right on our tail. That was a little disappointing, as I feel like we had a pretty substantial gap, and I possibly could have run away with that one, but it is what it is, and it is us crossing the line to start the second lap in P13. Now, we do have the Alpine car behind us. We're going to let him through. I expected him to make a move, if not on that corner, then the next one, and sure enough, he goes for it. I'm just going to settle behind him. I don't want any problems, any more problems. And on to the Nordschleife we go, with Manthe at the front, Alpine in the middle, excuse me, and then I'm kind of holding back these other 4 guys behind us with Dynaco McQueen, who's had a very unfortunate race leading the back of this pack. Coming through the first sector, I feel very comfortable here on this track, and down to third gear, kind of ride the camber on the inside there. The car will slide a little bit, braking at the end of this curb, kind of powering over this curb, and then slightly braking at the end of it just to get the nose turned in and find that camber. As we head onto the first bit of, I guess what you could call a straight, it's really about getting on the power there early, and Manthe had a little bit of a tough run through there. Not to mention Alpine is also riding his slipstream, so he's going to be all over him. I think just the closeness of those 2 cars kind of makes both of them take a slightly reserved line into that corner or through Flugplatz, and that will see us to pull right up onto them. Alpine looking to go up the inside of the extremely fast left-hander, but before we go any further, remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button, but only if I can make the octopus in the bucket. All right, slightly different today. Octopus, I've got to make it in the bucket, but I have 4 attempts. It's 3 fingers, but I have 4 attempts to chip it into the bucket from somewhere over here, just on the ground. I'll be chipping it like a soccer ball. That was like the first time I kicked anything in years, but I promise I'm actually pretty good at football, soccer, whatever. So Alpine up the inside, we follow him through. It looks like me and Manthe are going to go too wide through the long right-hander, and we're making it work around the outside until we are not. Behind us, 15 sends it from downtown. I think he just doesn't brake enough. Ends up kind of looking for a gap on the inside. And that is sadly going to put us onto the side of the track where we would lose 4 positions. So down into P18 now, sadly. And chasing down the car number 15 once again. He ends up kind of getting backed up by car number 5. And now I am behind both of these guys as we almost fall off of that group ahead. Car number 5, as we've mentioned, I believe he has damage. 15, I think he may just be kind of slightly off of the pace. So I'm looking to hopefully get around both of these guys at some point, and hopefully cleanly, as we are getting pretty high in the incident points. I think it's 17 gets you disqualified, and at the moment I think I want to say I have 10 or 8 at least. I've had 2 moments of contact on turn 2, and then just a second ago with that car number 15. So whatever it is, it's going up there. This guy slows down a lot. I don't even realize this guy is off the track. We go around the outside of him off of the track, somehow manage to find the hole. 5 just kind of understeers into the grass, and we didn't quite have enough time to react. We couldn't see exactly what was happening to him, as 15 was kind of blocking, I mean, not intentionally, but he was blocking our view. And then by the time we see it, it's a little bit too late to brake there. You really just end up locking up your brakes if you try and brake heavily on that corner. So we do gain 1 position. That's going to put us into P17. And then going down the Dottinger, 15 is going to remain on the left side. We're going to go around the right side, and he'll end up backing out. So that will put us up into P16 to start the final lap. So we're still in sight of the group ahead, which is motivating. I believe I can catch those guys, or at least I have to believe. I have to believe that I can catch those guys. Otherwise, what's the point? And they are fighting into T1. Meanwhile, car number 19 is chasing down Joey, and Joey is going to have a bit of a moment out of the chicane, ends up going into the grass, recovers it. 19 taking a very wide entry, and I know that he's probably seeing Joey as vulnerable now because Joey had that moment in the grass, but this was a pretty optimistic move, braking as late as he possibly can. I'm not sure that there would have been space for Joey on the outside had he not made contact with Joey. The car was going to get thrown to the right. Either way, that's going to end with Joey behind him now. So Joey's fallen back 2 positions, and car number 19 is now made his way to the front of this kind of middle sector. Dinoco McQueen up ahead is flashing the hell out of the Manthe Porsche, and I'm hoping, I mean, he has a lot of damage. The Manthe Porsche seems to be slightly off of the pace as well, so I'm hoping that these guys will fight. Manthe gets a rough exit once again out of that first bit of the Nordschleife, heading into full plats, and that's not where you want to have a speed deficit. And sure enough, they're going to go side by side. Manthe is going to back out. That's going to still damage both of their runs, though, so I will be pulling some time to these guys, hopefully. I should be. And it looks like, I mean, it's pretty minimal. It's very hard to tell visually, but I probably pulled a couple of tenths. Manthe will then proceed to flash Dinoco in retaliation for Dinoco flashing him earlier into, I don't remember the name, I'm not confident. I want to say Foxhole or something like that, but I don't know. And we gain a lot of time to these guys through here. We probably started with a second to these guys, and coming out of this, or we might have started with more than a second. Coming out of it, it looks like it's closer to a second now to these guys. So we definitely closed it up some, and we are going to soak up the slipstream all of the way onto the middle straight. Joey up ahead is making his way towards the carousel. Car ahead goes super wide and then tries to recover, but gets a tire on that curb, and it kind of pulls him around weird, really weird, and Joey gets through there. So Joey now chasing down car number 19, and while this is happening, we are still chasing down the Manthe Porsche. We get right up behind him as he gets a poor run through that fast left-hander. We have to slow down a little bit to avoid making contact with him into the long right-hander that leads into the carousel, and he brakes way too late. Almost taking out Dinoco Porsche, or Dinoco McQueen up there, but manages to keep it safe. He does spin out though, so there's basically nobody behind us at this point. Coming into the carousel behind Dinoco, and we are going to make a crucial error, just driving out of the carousel poorly. And yeah, at this point I was pretty, man, I was fed up with my performance all the way around, and I mean, it was a lack of practice. It was a lot of stuff that was going on. Meanwhile, we're gonna jump ahead to Joey, who is chasing down car number 19. They are on just about on the home stretch of the Nordschleife. They're coming towards the Dottinger pretty soon here, heading across the jump, and Joey is going to do well to maintain speed there. You can see how much later he's shifting down to 4th as opposed to me, and he actually gets a really good run out of there, closing up probably 2/10 maybe to the Alpine car, and that is going to carry through all of the way down this flat out sector as he begins to chip away more and more time, braking as lightly as you can through here while still getting the necessary angle that you need. Down to 3rd gear, like I said, off camber there, you want to be very careful onto the throttle. He does well, and shifting down to 3rd a lot later than I am to get into the 2nd carousel, and that's going to do wonders for him as he is now, I mean, maybe 2/10 or realistically 4/10 maybe behind the Alpine car, and as they head onto the Dottinger, it looks like a perfect gap. So he's into 5th in time. He carried plenty of speed through there, and there's nobody behind him, so he's not under any attack. He can just focus on moving ahead. The Alpine car has no slipstream from anyone ahead of him, and sure enough, before they reach the Bilstein Bridge, Joey is going to move to the left side. They split the difference of this guy who's going really slow for some reason, and then 19 just starts to make contact with Joey, and then, I mean, come on. Oh, he just puts him into the wall. Joey gets slapped against the barrier, and that is going to be quite a lot of damage. That's going to be terminal damage, so he's going to have to tow. Finds a perfect little nook there on the side, and we are going to gain that position as he had to tow his car. So I think we're now up into P15 or 14, and then as we move ahead to the line, this guy has run out of fuel, so we will cross the line in P13, and believe it or not, this was like one of the cleaner overall races that I have been in this week, so we've been struggling. I tried to get on the mic and say Clean Dean to car number 19, who is, his name is Dean, and I thought Clean Dean worked because he wasn't very clean. But it opened me up to this heater, so he stuck it to me with this one, and honestly, I should probably download Fortnite after this week. Here are the results. It pains me to look at these. Absolutely continuing to fall in both departments, both safety and iRating, finishing P13, and yeah, not much to be said about this one. If you guys enjoyed this race and enjoyed this video, please check out some of my other videos or check out my channel. It would help me out a ton, and I'm sure you'll enjoy them as well.